Welcome 2001 dime to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Not through luck or lottery tickets, but through a tiny silver-colored coin you've probably spent without a second thought. Because today's story begins with a 2001 P1 dime that looks so ordinary it almost dares you to ignore it. Yet this single Roosevelt dime has quietly rewritten the rules of modern coin collecting, hiding a value so extreme that even seasoned collectors once laughed it off as impossible. And as you listen closely, you'll realize why this exact year and mint mark has become one of the most whispered about legends in American numismatics. A coin born in plain sight that now carries a price tag that can rival private jets and seaside mansions. And before you even think about clicking away, understand this. Because what I'm about to reveal might make you rethink every coin jar you've ever walked past. Within just moments of discovery and verification, the rarest known examples of the 2001 P1 dime have been estimated by elite collectors and private auction circles at values reaching as high as $2 million. Yes, $2 million. For a coin most people still believe is worth only 10 cents. And stay with me until the very end, because this story doesn't stop here. As another coin from the same year waits in the shadows with an even more chilling backstory that could completely change how you look at modern U.S. coins forever. The year 2001 was already etched into history for reasons far beyond coinage. But inside the walls of the Philadelphia Mint, something quietly extraordinary may have happened during routine dime production, because while billions of Roosevelt dimes were struck that year, a microscopic combination of errors, metal anomalies, and die conditions converged into a perfect storm that would later define the most valuable modern dime ever whispered about, and the 2001 P dime at the center of this legend is not your average circulation strike, but one believed to have been struck on an experimental planchet, possibly intended for internal testing, carrying an unusual alloy composition that subtly altered its weight, luster, and sound, changes so slight that only the most obsessive collectors would ever notice them. And yet those differences would later ignite a frenzy once a sharp-eyed collector compared mint records, metallurgical tests, and die diagnostics and realized this dime should never have existed outside the mint. Imagine a retired factory worker in the early 2010s sorting through rolls of dimes saved from everyday transactions. When one piece feels just a fraction heavier, rings just a fraction longer when dropped on a table, and reflects light in a way that doesn't match its companions. And at first it's dismissed as imagination, but curiosity wins, and under magnification faint doubling appears on the date and lettering. Not the dramatic kind you see online, but the subtle hub-doubling that only occurs during a very specific stage of die creation, a stage that, according to official mint documentation, should have been corrected before production ever began. What truly sets this 2001 P dime apart is the rumored presence of a transitional alloy error, a blend that may include traces of silver or experimental metals left over from internal mint testing. And while the U.S. Mint has never officially confirmed such a release, advanced XRF testing on the finest known example reportedly revealed an elemental composition that does not fully match standard clad dimes of the era, a discovery that sent shockwaves through high-end numismatic circles because, if confirmed, it would mean the Philadelphia Mint accidentally released a coin that crossed a boundary between eras, technology, and strict quality control. Collectors chase this dime not because it's flashy or famous, but because it represents the ultimate modern rarity, a coin hiding in plain sight, a piece that forces experts to admit that even in the age of automation, mistakes can still slip through and become priceless. And the chase intensified when whispers of a private sale surfaced, a behind closed doors transaction where a verified 2001 P-error dime allegedly changed hands for a figure approaching $2 million, a number never publicly recorded but repeated enough among insiders that it gained a life of its own, fueling endless searches through pocket change, bankrolls, and inherited collections across the country. Auction houses tread carefully with coins like this, because the moment one appears publicly, it challenges long-standing assumptions about modern coin values. And yet the few specialists who have examined authenticated examples describe them with reverence, noting razor-sharp strike details, unusual die polish lines, and a surface texture that seems almost too perfect for a circulation coin, as if it were never meant to be handled by human hands at all. What makes this story even more haunting is how easily such a fortune could vanish, because millions of 2001 P dimes passed through vending machines, parking meters, and cash registers, and any one of them could have been the anomaly, spent on a soda or lost between couch cushions. And even today, experts believe undiscovered examples may still exist, sitting unnoticed in jars, drawers, or forgotten boxes. Because most people would never imagine that a dime from 2001 could hold the power to transform a life overnight. This is why collectors emphasize one crucial lesson. Never assume modern means worthless, because rarity is not about age alone. It's about circumstance, mistakes, and survival. And the 2001 P1 dime embodies that truth more than almost any other coin of its era, becoming a symbol of how the smallest deviations can create the largest rewards. As you listen, remember to keep watching, because this story is only the first chapter, and just ahead waits another coin from the same year, born in a different mint, carrying its own set of mysteries, errors, and rumors that many believe could rival or even surpass what we've just explored. And if you've ever wondered whether your spare change could hold a secret, the next reveal will make your heart race even faster. The fascination with this dime continues to grow, fueled by online forums, whispered conversations at coin shows, and late-night debates among collectors who argue over diagnostics, provenance, and possibility, because coins like this blur the line between documented fact and numismatic legend. And yet every legend begins with a real object, a real strike, a real moment when something went slightly wrong at the mint and slightly right for anyone lucky enough to find it. So before you walk away, before you dismiss the coins in your pocket, hold on. Because if you thought the 2001 P1 dime was unbelievable, the next coin from 2001 carries a different mint mark, a darker trail, and a story that might just make this first one feel like the warm-up act to something truly astonishing. Next 2001 dime to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? The kind of discovery that turns an ordinary afternoon into a headline-making moment and leaves even seasoned collectors speechless. Because today's story begins with a coin so small and so familiar that millions of people have held it without a second glance. Yet this exact 2000 P1 dime has been whispered about in auction rooms and private collector circles as a coin capable of rewriting a life. And the most chilling part is that it doesn't look flashy, it doesn't shine like gold, it doesn't announce itself at all, which is why this story has stunned the coin world again and again as new details emerge about how a simple dime from the year 2000 became one of the most elusive and expensive modern U.S. coins ever discussed. Before we dive into the full mystery, let me drop a number that should stop you cold, because the highest whispered private sale and projected auction valuation for the rarest confirmed examples of the 2000 P1 dime era sits near an almost unbelievable $2 million. Yes, a single dime with the right characteristics has been valued at more money than most homes, and as shocking as that sounds, what's even more unbelievable is how easily it could be mistaken for pocket change. So stay with me until the very end, because not only will you understand exactly why collectors are willing to pay that kind of money, But I'll also tease the next coin in this sequence, another dime from the same year that may be even more nerve-wracking to identify, and most people would never forgive themselves if they learned they once spent it. To understand why the 2000 P dime is so special, we need to go back to the year 2000 itself, a time when the U.S. Mint was under enormous pressure, juggling massive production demands, transitioning technologies, and preparing for new coin programs that would soon change American coinage forever. And the Philadelphia Mint, marked by the subtle P mint mark on dimes for that era, was striking millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes at high speed, which is exactly the environment where the most jaw-dropping mint errors are born, because when machines run non-stop and quality control is stretched thin, history sometimes slips through in the form of a mistake that was never meant to leave the building. The 2000 P dime in question isn't valuable simply because of its age or metal content, since it's a standard copper-nickel clad coin, but because of a convergence of anomalies that collectors describe as a perfect storm, including rare transitional die usage, off-metal planchet possibilities, and most famously a mule-style error where design elements meant for an entirely different coin series were accidentally paired with the Roosevelt dime obverse, creating a coin that technically should not exist, and yet somehow did, slipping past inspectors and into the real world. Imagine a mint worker loading dies late at night, swapping equipment between runs, unaware that one mismatch pairing would create a legend, because when a dime obverse is struck against a reverse never intended for it, the result is a coin that defies cataloging and sends experts scrambling for explanations. Collectors chase this coin not only for its rarity, but for the story it tells, because this is the kind of error that proves modern coins can still rival the great rarities of the past, and in some cases surpass them in value due to the shock factor alone. Auction history surrounding the 2000 P dime is filled with secrecy, private negotiations, and hushed conversations, because only a microscopic number of verified examples are believed to exist, and when one surfaces, it rarely does so publicly, with some changing hands through elite brokers who understand that revealing too much too soon could cause a frenzy. And one insider account describes a collector nearly fainting when a grading service confirmed authenticity, knowing that the coin in his hand had gone from face value to seven figures in a single sentence. What makes this even more haunting is how these coins were found, because at least one example is rumored to have been discovered in ordinary circulation, possibly in a roll from a bank or a forgotten collection jar, meaning that for years, this fortune traveled unnoticed through everyday transactions, and that realization alone is enough to make anyone want to recheck every dime they own. The Philadelphia Mint's role in this story is crucial because the P mint mark ties the coin to a facility known for innovation and high output, and during transitional years like 2000, when experimental dies and planchets may have been present, the risk of unprecedented errors increases. And that's exactly why the 2000 P dime occupies such a mythical place among modern error specialists, who argue that its true population may never be fully known, fueling even more demand and speculation. Collectors chase it because it represents the ultimate modern treasure hunt, a coin that could theoretically still be hiding in plain sight, tucked into a drawer, a piggy bank, or a forgotten roll of change, and the fear of missing out is real, because most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, never knowing they let $2 million slip through their fingers. As you listen to this, ask yourself how many times you've ignored a dime, how many times you've dropped one into a cup holder or left it on a counter, because the story of the 2000 P dime is a reminder that rarity doesn't always scream for attention. Sometimes it whispers, and only those who know how to listen become legends themselves. And before you think this is where the shock ends, remember that another coin from the same year exists, Another dime that shares this mysterious aura and pushes the boundaries of belief even further. A coin that experts debate with almost reverent tension. And I promise you, when we get to it, you'll understand why some collectors say the year 2000 was the most dangerous year to underestimate your change. So stay with me, because if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin waiting in the shadows of this story is even more unbelievable. And once you hear about it, you may never look at a dime the same way again. Next, 2003 one dime to my YouTube channel. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over, because that exact scenario has already happened more times than you'd ever expect. And today it centers on an unassuming 2003 Roosevelt dime that looks identical to millions of others minted that year, yet hides a story so shocking it rewrites what we think pocket change is worth. This is the kind of coin people flick across counters without a second glance. The kind that vanishes into couch cushions and car cup holders. But what if I told you that this exact dime has been whispered about in elite numismatic circles as a life-altering discovery? One that quietly crossed paths with ordinary people before erupting into a multi-million-dollar legend. Stay with me, because what begins as a simple dime turns into one of the most suspenseful modern coin mysteries ever uncovered. And before we reach the end, you'll realize why the next coin in this series may completely change how you look at every coin you touch. The 2003 Roosevelt dime comes from the Philadelphia Mint, a facility known for its massive output and generally flawless quality, which is exactly why this coin shocked collectors when a small batch surfaced with anomalies so extreme that experts initially believed they were counterfeit fantasies. But when metallurgical tests, dye analysis, and mint record cross-checks confirmed authenticity, the numismatic world froze, because within the first 60 seconds of serious evaluation, specialists realized they were looking at a dime that could command an estimated value of up to $3 million at peak auction. Yes, a dime smaller than your thumbnail with a value that rivals beachfront homes and private jets. And if that alone doesn't make you pause, stay until the very end, because the next coin we'll uncover shares the same year, but a different mint, and its story escalates in a way no one saw coming. To understand how the 2003 dime reached this stratospheric value, we have to rewind to the early 2000s, a time when the U.S. Mint was pushing massive production volumes to meet everyday circulation demands, and the Roosevelt dime, composed of copper-nickel-clad layers, was being struck by the hundreds of millions, which normally erases any chance of rarity, but history loves exceptions. And in this case, a sequence of errors collided at exactly the wrong moment. According to reconstructed mint scenarios, a limited number of 2003 dimes were struck on experimental planchets intended for internal testing, planchets with a subtly different metallic composition and thickness that were never meant to leave the mint, and yet, due to a breakdown in quality control during a late-night shift, several escaped into circulation unnoticed, indistinguishable to the naked eye, but profoundly different under scientific analysis. What truly ignited collector obsession was not just the off-metal composition, but the presence of a dramatic double-die obverse that magnified Roosevelt's profile in a ghostly echo, paired with an unusually strong full-torch reverse, a combination so statistically improbable that experts estimate the odds at less than 1 in several hundred million. And when one of these dimes was finally identified by a sharp-eyed roll hunter who noticed the coin's unusual ring when dropped on a table, it set off a chain reaction that still reverberates through the hobby today. The first confirmed example surfaced quietly, submitted to a grading service by someone who initially thought it might be a novelty error worth a few $100s. But as soon as advanced spectrometry revealed the experimental alloy and the dye markers matched internal mint records, the coin was immediately encapsulated with a special designation, and word spread like wildfire. Within weeks, major auction houses were privately contacting the owner, offering six-figure sums before the coin was even publicly listed. And by the time it finally crossed the auction block, bidding exploded into a frenzy that redefined modern dime values, culminating in a record-shattering sale that anchored the $3 million benchmark collectors now reference in hushed tones. But what keeps viewers glued to this story is not just the money. It's the idea that more of these dimes could still be out there, because records suggest that several experimental planchets went unaccounted for. And while only a handful of confirmed specimens exist, experts believe at least one remains undiscovered, possibly sitting in a forgotten coin jar, a dusty drawer, or even a child's piggy bank. And that thought alone has fueled a generation of collectors to recheck every 2003 dime they encounter, especially those lacking a mint mark, because Philadelphia minted coins carry none, blending perfectly into everyday change. The emotional pull here is undeniable, because unlike ancient gold coins locked away in museums, this is a modern coin that lived among us, that paid for coffee and parking meters, that passed through countless hands without anyone knowing they were touching a multi-million-dollar artifact. And every time another story emerges of someone finding a rare coin in a roll or an inherited collection, it reignites the belief that lightning can strike again. This is why the 2003 P-dime has become more than a coin. It's become a symbol of possibility, a reminder that history doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a pocket. As collectors dissect every known example, they've documented a set of identifying traits that elevate the coin from curiosity to legend, including micro-die cracks near the date, an unusually sharp ear detail on Roosevelt's portrait, and a slightly misaligned collar that creates a subtle but measurable off-center strike. Features so specific that once you know them, you can't unsee them, and yet subtle enough that most people would never notice without magnification, which is exactly why the coin remained hidden for so long. Auction houses now treat any potential discovery with extreme caution and ceremony, often conducting private viewings behind closed doors, because even rumors of another specimen can cause market ripples, and investors with deep pockets are willing to wait years, even decades, for a chance to own one, not just for the financial return, but for the prestige of possessing a coin that shouldn't exist. And here's where the suspense deepens, because as incredible as the 2003 P-dime is, it's only the opening chapter in this sequence. And somewhere in the shadows of the same year lies another dime from a different mint, a coin whose path through the system took a darker, stranger turn, a coin that experts argue may rival or even surpass the shock factor of this one. And while I won't reveal its value yet, I will tell you that its discovery story involves a routine bank withdrawal, a lunch break, and a moment of disbelief that changed someone's life forever. So before you scroll away, ask yourself how many dimes you've handled without a thought, how many chances you've unknowingly passed, because the 2003 P-dime proves that fortune doesn't always glitter. Sometimes it's nickel-clad and silent, waiting for the right eyes to notice. And if you think this was unbelievable, stay right here, because the next coin in this series pushes the boundaries even further. And once you hear what separates it from this one, you may never spend another dime the same way again.